Welcome to today's hot topic, and today's hot topic is all about finding your hidden profits. So we're starting to look at some of the initial growth phases for your business and what you can actually do to get some really quick wins on the board as you're starting your business improvement journey, if we can call it that. So finding your hidden profits harks back to some work done by Jay Abraham, which was all based around 3 ways to grow your business. Now, over the years, it's been morphed into 4 ways to grow your business. I actually use a 5 ways to grow your business template when we do our hidden profits analysis, but it's all based around very similar concepts. So that's where it originated from. I just want to take you through each one of those steps, and I'm going to go through the 5 ways, I guess, for your business in terms of finding your hidden profits. Now, some of you will already have come across this. Any coach worth their salt should know this process. How they apply it will be different, but if you haven't come across this process before and it is new, then you'll be a bit blown away. And as I said, this forms the core of our hidden profits analysis that we do with clients. So the first of the 5 ways that we have in terms of growing your business is all about increasing the number of leads that you have. And the second way is all about increasing your conversion rate of those leads into customers. So this is where you get the distinction between 4 ways to grow and 5 ways to grow. So we like to split increasing the number of customers you have into 2 scenarios. Now you can split that into even more these days with all online marketing analysis and so on. But we like to look at increase the number of leads that you receive and increase your conversion rate, because if you get a whole heap of people contacting you for business, but you're very bad at converting those into sales, then those 2 factors are going to have an effect on the number of customers that you have. Understandable? So the first way that we need to look at to grow our business needs to be increasing the number of leads that come to our business. Now that opens up a ton of areas that we can work on as advisors and business owners to increase the number of leads. We could initially, the obvious one is do more advertising. We could be doing social media. We could be doing more traditional media, such as press or radio, TV, etc. We could simply be doing word of mouth and building our referral network in terms of the amount of leads that we get. So there are only a few of the ways, and we can, when we sit down with a client, we brainstorm these and we go through all of the different ways that they could apply in their business to increase the number of leads that come to them, and then we start to prioritize what we're going to do there and start to put some of those in place. The second of the components to this is the conversion rate. So once a lead comes to you, what do you do? How do you follow that up? Do you have some sort of an automated nurture sequence, which is all the rage these days? But even simpler than that, if you're in a retail environment and your lead is effectively the person who walks in the door, then you need to convert that person who's walked in your door into a paying customer. So do you have a sales assistant who's sitting there chewing gum and on a mobile phone sifting through Instagram? Or do you have a sales assistant who comes up to the customer, engages with the customer, is really helpful and giving them excellent customer service and actually leading them to actually buy from your business? It's a really simple example of conversion in the retail environment. You could have conversion in a service-based environment be the type of proposals and pre-sale information that you get out to your customers and how you actually manage that process. Really key that you break down your whole sales process and look at what your conversion rate is now and what you can actually improve it to. And we'll cover a little bit of the now and then scenario planning in a second. So the next factor that we really need to consider is, what is the average sale in your business? So when somebody comes and buys off you, do they buy a burger or do they buy a burger, drink and fries? So that's a really simple example of how we can actually increase the average sale every time somebody buys off you, is the typical upsell, the McDonald's factor, yeah? The other way that we can actually increase our average sale is put our price up. And that's a really good lever to pull early on to get you wins, is to say, well, okay, look, how about we increase our price? And we actually have some charts that show the significant amount of business that you could actually lose if you did increase your price, depending on what your margin is. Now, all of these are things that you need to know before you pull that lever. But it's the resistance to increasing price that's a really interesting one. And once we show people what they can actually do by increasing their price and then actually doing less work, is a really interesting one. In fact, that's a really good one for tradesmen. At the moment, we're going through a cycle where trades are really, really, really busy. They don't have time to do anything, but none of them want to increase their price because then they'll lose some jobs. But what they don't realise is if they lost a few jobs along the way, they would still maintain a lot of the jobs at a higher price. And what that means is that they're making the same amount of money for less work, which means that they're no longer as busy, which means they can either sit around and do nothing, or they can grow their business, or they can chase more of that really profitable work and leave the unprofitable stuff for their competitors. So see how when you're actually looking at these things, you can look at the really simple examples of how to do stuff, but it spirals and spiders out in your business into a whole heap of different areas and the ways that you can actually improve. The next key thing is the number of times that a client actually buys from you. So that's really key as well. So if you think of somebody who's in a recurring sale environment, let's say that it is a dentist. So a dentist might see a patient once a year. So there's somebody who doesn't have very good dental hygiene. They go once a year, or maybe once every 2 years. Now, if we could just get that one customer back more often, then we would make more money from that customer. But it's the key of getting them back more often and how we do that. So a lot of us have now been accustomed to see some of these more health-related services and the way that they send out reminders, the way that they have text-based, SMS-based systems now to remind people of appointments, make sure that they turn up, make sure that they come back regularly for checkups, make sure that we're getting more sales over the course of a year than simply just the 1 or 2. We can improve that to maybe 3 on average. So an extra sale brings in more money. And when we do that across our customer or client base, then the numbers can be really amazing. An old example I used to use in a lot of our workshops was the mechanic or the exhaust. When you used to get the exhaust on your cars repaired, when we had older cars rather than cars that we turned over regularly, you would go, an exhaust repairer would know how long an exhaust would typically last on a vehicle. Now that may be a long period of time, but guaranteed that the next time that person goes to get that repaired, they'll probably go to another provider. So what they could offer is they could offer a check, get them in, check it over, and that way we're building this loyalty of bringing the customer back. Mechanics really need to implement that in their business. And some do it well, some do it very, very poorly. They just sit back reactively and wait for people to come in. So once we've covered how many leads you get, what your conversion rate is, how much you actually sell in terms of dollar value every sale, and then we look at the number of times that customer comes back, the last factor that we really need to look at is what profit margin are we making on a product? Now, a profit margin can be something that's affected by the price. So we talked about increasing your prices before in terms of increasing your average sale. Now that will obviously affect profit margin in a sense. But where we want to look on this fifth one is not just a price lever change to margin. We want to look at whether you can purchase better in terms of your resources, your raw materials or your stock. We want to look at whether you're actually efficient in terms of the way that you run your business. So do you have too high wages for what's actually going on in your business? Are your costs out of whack? So your cost structure is too high. You have too big a premises. You have a premises that's not fully utilised. You have capacity within your staff that's not fully utilised. You're spending in areas that you really shouldn't be spending. So you have this wasteful expenditure structure. So all of those things are going to affect the amount of profit that you make out of those top line areas. So the first four are all about revenue. They're all about increasing the revenue of your business. And that's on purpose because most businesses suffer because their revenue is just not at the level that it needs to be to sustain the expenditure structure. Or they might have reasonable revenue, but their expenditure structure is just all out of whack, which means that their margin is all out of whack. So if you can actually work at all five of these and start to make small changes in each of them, you can have a significant impact in the way that you run your business. So what we do with a hidden profits analysis at Direction is we measure what you're actually doing at the moment on each of those five factors. So if I was to say to your business now, how many leads are you generating a year? Or it could be a week, or it could be a month. It's easy to measure it on a yearly basis because then we can show the effect that this is going to have on your business on an annual basis. So how many leads are you generating in your business over the course of a year? Can you tell me? Now, the majority of businesses that I ask that question to don't have any idea of the amount of leads that they're generating in their business. They might give me a figure, but that figure won't necessarily be accurate because they don't measure it. Why don't they measure it? Who knows? They don't have the system to measure it, would be my guess. So measuring the amount of leads, we don't do anything. We just deal with the people that walk in the door. We don't worry about it too much, but we spend a whole heap on advertising. So that one really, really cracks me up because whilst we're spending the money, we're not measuring the result. So by measuring the leads that come into your business, that's the first thing we ask. So in one column, we're looking at what are you doing at the moment? How many leads? What is your conversion rate at the moment? Do you know that? Oh yeah, look, I'm pretty good at sales. I convert, pretty much 75%. Is that an accurate figure or is that just a guess, or are you just telling me that because you want me to put a figure into this process? So the first part of it, you get the idea. The first part of this exercise of hidden profits is to work out and work out legitimately, what are you doing at the moment? You're only kidding yourself if you're not putting the right numbers into the system. What is your average sale? Do you know? Oh, well, some things we sell for a lot and some things we sell for not a lot. Well, okay, let's look at the outliers and then let's look at an average in the center. Yeah? Or let's just look at an average overall if you're selling a lot of small things and a lot of large things, because that's your business. What is your average sale? This is all about averages. It's not about absolutes. It's all about averages, and it's all about improving those averages and getting better. So we don't need to know the absolutes, but we need to know, in the ballpark, not just a made up figure. So when we look at average sale, how many times do those customers buy from you? Have you ever done an analysis on a customer basis of how much does that customer spend with you each year? How many times did they buy? What did they buy? What should they be buying? What could they be buying? Can we sell them more? Can we get them back more often? If so, how? All of this analysis is in the strategy part. But if we don't know what we're doing now, then how the hell can we improve it? And last of all, what is your margin at the moment? Do you know what your margin is? Do you know what your expenditure structure is? Have you got a really good handle on your numbers so you can rattle these figures off really easy? Now, once you've worked through those numbers, each of those 5 steps in terms of what you're doing currently, then what we do is a little bit of scenario planning. So this is where you're really dealing in the 1%ers. Because if you change each of these things by a very small amount, it can have a massive effect on your bottom line. You don't need to change the amount of leads in your business by 50% unless you want to. You could change the leads in your business by less than 5% and it would typically, on most businesses, have a massive effect. Certainly an effect far outweighing the cost of getting some advice to actually increase those leads or the expense of doing some additional advertising, whatever it may be. How do you improve your conversion rate? Do you need to change your conversion rate from 5 people out of 10 to 9 people out of 10? Not necessarily. It might be okay to just move the dial by, on average, 5 people out of 10 to 5.5 people out of 10. So in every 20, you're doing 11 instead of 10. One extra person in every 20 that you're converting can have a huge effect on your business. And likewise, the other 3 factors, if you change the dial by a small amount, a massive effect on your business's bottom line. And that's what we call your hidden profits. So when we do the analysis, what are you doing at the moment? Okay, let's go into the dream room and let's do some scenarios. What if we change this by 1%? Could we achieve a 1% increase in leads? What would that mean for your business? Let's chunk it down to something that, how many leads is that per week? What's the increase per week? And typically when I work with a business on one of these, it's amazing how they go, you mean I can do that by only getting 1 extra lead per week? And I say, okay, is that possible? They go, hell yeah. All right, well, let's get about doing it. Let's put a plan in place to actually do some of these things rather than just wait back and let business happen to us. So hopefully this has been a little bit helpful in terms of exploring what hidden profits is all about. There's some really quick wins for a business in this area. So I'd really advise, getting in touch with us and having a bit of a chat about how we can apply the hidden profits analysis to your business and look at this little scenario planner. It's only a small exercise, but it's a very powerful one. And if you can apply that to your business, it can have massive effects. So I'd really encourage you to get in touch. Let's have a chat about the hidden profits analysis and see whether your business can get something out of it. I think there's something in it for any type of business, no matter what industry you're in.